The pack watched in silence as they cast out the broken Omega and her unborn child. Then the ground split beneath her feet, and ancient wolf magic no one had seen in 1,000 years tore through her veins. It was the kind of cold that hurts your bones. The snow was deep and white, but the mood was black. Hundreds of wolves stood in a circle. They were big, strong, and angry. In the middle of them stood Mia. She was small, she was shivering. She wore only a thin, torn dress. Her bare feet were blue from the ice. But the most painful thing wasn't the cold. It was the man standing in front of her. He was tall, he was broad, he was beautiful and terrifying. He was Ethan, the Alpha King, the most powerful wolf in the kingdom. The man Mia loved more than life itself. And he was looking at her with eyes full of hate. "I Alpha Ethan of the Moon Shadow Pack," his voice boomed like thunder, it shook the trees. "I reject you, Mia, as my mate. I banish you from these lands. You are a rogue, you are nothing." Mia fell to her knees in the snow. Her hands went to her stomach. She was holding something precious. A secret, a baby, his baby. "Ethan, please," she whispered, her voice was so small. "Please don't do this, the baby, he is yours." Ethan laughed, it was a dark, cruel sound. "My child, you dare lie to me now, after what I saw, after I saw you in his arms, after I saw his lips on yours." His eyes flashed red, the color of a mad wolf. "Leave," he roared, "before I tear your throat out myself." Mia looked around, she looked at the faces of the pack. People she grew up with, people she cooked for, they all looked away. No one moved, no one helped. An Omega is the lowest wolf. An Omega has no power. An Omega who cheats on the Alpha deserves death. That is what they thought. But Mia didn't cheat. She tried to stand up, but her legs were weak. The snow was staining red from the cuts on her feet. She looked at Ethan one last time. She was waiting for him to see the truth, to smell her scent, to know that she only ever loved him. He turned his back on her. "Go," he growled. "If you are still here when the moon rises fully, my warriors will hunt you down." Mia sobbed. It was a sound that broke the silence of the forest. She turned toward the dark woods, the place where monsters lived, the place where no wolf survived alone, especially not a pregnant one. She took one step, then two. "Goodbye, Ethan," she whispered. She took a third step, and that was when the pain hit her. It wasn't the cold, it wasn't the heartbreak. It was a burning fire inside her blood. It started in her toes and shot up to her heart. She screamed. Ethan stopped walking away. He turned around. Mia fell forward, but she didn't hit the snow. She floated. A low rumble started deep in the earth. It sounded like a giant beast waking up from a long sleep. The trees began to shake. The snow began to dance. Crack! The ground split open right beneath Mia's feet, but she didn't fall in. Light, bright, blinding purple light shot up from the cracks in the earth. It wasn't normal magic. It wasn't alpha magic. It was ancient. It felt old. It felt dangerous. The wolves whined and stepped back. Even Ethan took a step back, his eyes wide with shock. The purple light wrapped around Mia like a blanket. It lifted her chin. Her eyes snapped open. They weren't brown anymore. They were glowing silver. The magic tore through her veins, healing her cuts, warming her skin, and screaming to the world that the broken Omega was not broken at all. Ethan's mouth opened, but no sound came out. He smelled it then. The scent of power, the scent of a queen. But it was too late. "Let's go back. We need to see how we got to this terrible moment. We need to see the moment that broke the Alpha's heart and sealed Mia's fate." 6 hours earlier. The royal hall was warm, there was music, there was food. It was the Alpha's birthday celebration. Everyone was happy. Ethan sat on his throne. He looked powerful. He looked happy. He kept looking for Mia in the crowd. He wanted to announce that she was pregnant. He wanted to tell the world she was his queen. Mia was in the garden. She needed fresh air. The noise inside was too loud for her wolf ears. She was smiling, rubbing her tummy. She was thinking about names. "Hello, beautiful." Mia jumped. She turned around. Standing there was Lucas. Lucas was the beater. He was second in command. He was Ethan's best friend. But Lucas had always looked at Mia with hungry eyes, bad eyes. "Lucas," Mia said, taking a step back. "I should go inside. Ethan is waiting." "Ethan is busy," Lucas said, stepping closer. He smelled like wine and jealousy. "He doesn't appreciate you, Mia, an Omega. With an Alpha King, the pack laughs at you. They think you are a joke." "That's not true," Mia said, her voice shaking. "Ethan loves me." Does he, Lucas sneered, or does he just pity you? Lucas moved fast, too fast for a weak Omega like Mia. He grabbed her arms. He pinned her against the stone wall of the garden. Let me go, Mia cried out. Not yet, Lucas whispered. Let me show you what a real wolf feels like. He smashed his lips onto hers. It wasn't a kiss, it was an attack. Mia struggled. She pushed, she tried to bite him. She tried to scream, but he was too strong. He held her tight, making it look like an embrace. And that was when the balcony door opened. Mia. The voice was soft, but it carried the weight of a dying star. Lucas pulled away instantly, putting on a fake smile. He wiped his mouth, looking guilty on purpose. Mia gasped, wiping her lips, tears springing to her eyes. She looked up to the balcony. Ethan was standing there. He was holding a small velvet box, a gift for her. The box fell from his hand. It hit the stone floor with a sad little thud. Ethan's face went pale, then it went grey, then it went red. Ethan, no, Mia screamed, running toward the stairs. It's not what you think, he forced me, he grabbed me. Lucas fell to his knees, pretending to cry. Alpha, forgive me, she came onto me. She said you were too busy for her. She said she was lonely. I tried to push her away, but she seduced me. Liar, Mia screamed. Ethan, look at me, I carry your pup. Ethan walked down the stairs. Every step was heavy. The air around him got hot. His wolf, the beast, was surfacing. He looked at Lucas, his best friend. Then he looked at Mia, his soulmate. My pup, Ethan whispered. The pain in his voice was worse than his anger. How can it be my pup, when I smell his scent all over you? It was true, Lucas had rubbed his scent on her when he grabbed her. To a wolf, scent is everything, scent is proof. No, Mia sobbed, reaching for his hand. Ethan pulled his hand away, as if she burned him. Don't touch me, he hissed. The music inside the hall stopped. The guests poured out into the garden. They saw the Alpha shaking with rage. They saw the Beta on his knees. They saw the Omega crying. She is impure. A voice shouted from the crowd. It was Sarah, a female wolf who wanted to be queen. She has betrayed our king. Traitor, another wolf shouted. Cast her out. The chant started soft, then got louder. Cast her out, cast her out. Ethan looked at Mia. For 1 second, Mia saw love in his eyes. She saw him fighting it. She saw him wanting to believe her. But then he looked at Lucas. Lucas, who was pretending to be ashamed. Trust is a glass mirror. Once it is broken, you can glue it back together, but you will always see the cracks. Ethan's trust didn't just crack, it shattered into dust. Lock her up, Ethan said. His voice was dead. Take her to the dungeons. At sunset, we take her to the border. Ethan, Mia screamed as the guards grabbed her arms. Ethan, please, listen to my heart, listen to the baby's heart. But Ethan turned away. He walked back into the hall alone. Now we are back in the snow, back to the moment where everything changed. The purple light was getting brighter. The wind was howling, but the magic was louder. The pack was terrified. Wolves were whimpering, tucking their tails between their legs. This wasn't normal. Omegas don't have magic. Omegas are weak. But Mia was rising. Her feet were 6 inches off the ground. Her hair was floating around her face like a halo of black silk. The pain in her heart was gone. It was replaced by something else. Anger, pure ancient anger. She looked down at Ethan. Ethan was frozen. His alpha wolf was whining inside his head. Bo, his wolf said, Bo to her. Ethan, Mia said. Her voice wasn't small anymore. It echoed like a bell in a large cave. It sounded like many voices speaking at once. You cast me out, she said. You rejected our bond, you rejected your child. Mia, Ethan took a step forward. He reached out a hand. Mia, what is happening to you? You wanted me to leave, Mia said. The purple light flared, turning the snow around her into steam. So I will leave. No, Ethan said. He felt a panic he had never felt before. He realized, looking at her glowing silver eyes, that he had made a mistake, a terrible, fatal mistake. Mia, stop, come down. It is too late for that alpha, Mia said. She placed a hand on her stomach. The light pulsed. Boom. A shockwave of energy blasted out from her body. It knocked the wolves closest to her onto their backs. It knocked Ethan into the snow. When he looked up, the purple light was fading. The steam cleared. The ground was cracked and broken. But Mia was gone. The spot where she had been standing was empty. Only her footprints remained, glowing faintly with that silver light. Ethan scrambled to his feet. He ran to the spot. He smelled the air. Nothing. No scent, no sound, no heartbeat. It was as if she had vanished from the face of the earth. Mia, Ethan screamed. He fell to his knees in the empty snow. MIA. His howl ripped through the night, a sound of pure regret. But deep in the forest, far away from the pack lands, something answered. It wasn't a wolf. It was a roar that shook the mountains. A roar of a creature that had been sleeping for 1,000 years, waiting for a queen to wake it up. Ethan stopped howling. He looked at the dark forest. His face was pale. "What have I done?" he whispered. Just then Lucas walked up behind him. He put a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "She is gone, Alpha," Lucas said, hiding his smirk. "Good riddance, she was a witch." Ethan stood up slowly. He turned to look at Lucas. Ethan's eyes were not just red anymore, they were black. "If she is gone," Ethan said, his voice dropping to a terrifying whisper, "then why does my soul feel like it is bleeding?" Ethan looked back at the deep, dark woods. He felt a pull, a tug in his chest. She wasn't dead, he knew it. But she wasn't his Mia anymore, she was something else. And he had to find her, before the thing that roared in the forest found her first. But as Ethan took a step toward the trees, a shadow moved. From the darkness of the woods a pair of eyes appeared, not wolf eyes. They were glowing purple, and they were watching him. The purple eyes in the darkness blinked once, then vanished. Ethan lunged forward. He didn't care about the cold. He didn't care about the treaties that said the deep woods were forbidden. He shifted into his wolf form midair. His bones cracked and reshaped. 4 black as midnight burst from his skin. He landed on 4 massive paws, a beast of shadow and muscle. He was the alpha, he was the king, and he had just lost his queen. He tore into the forest. The trees whipped against his face. The snow flew up behind his heels like dust. He followed the spot where he had seen the eyes. He sniffed the air desperately. He was hunting for the scent of vanilla and rain, Mia's scent. But there was nothing. The forest smelled of old earth, rotting leaves, and something else. Ozone, the smell of lightning after a storm. It was the smell of the magic that had taken her. Ethan ran until his lungs burned. He ran until the moon was high and bright in the sky. He ran until he hit the invisible barrier that separated the pack lands from the dead lands. The barrier shimmered like a heatwave. No wolf could cross it. It was ancient magic placed there to keep the monsters out, or perhaps to keep the wolves in. Ethan paced back and forth along the line. He snarled. He clawed at the invisible wall. Sparks flew, burning his paws, but he didn't stop. He threw his massive body against the magic. Thud, thud, thud. It was useless. He threw his head back and howled again. It wasn't an angry howl this time. It was the sound of a wolf who had lost his mate. It was a mournful, high-pitched cry that made the birds in the trees stop singing. Behind him, the soft crunch of snow announced the arrival of the pack. Lucas walked to the front. He didn't shift into his wolf. He stood in his human form, wrapping a fur cloak tighter around himself. He looked at the frantic Alpha with a mixture of pity and satisfaction. "Alpha," Lucas called out, "stop, you will kill yourself." Ethan shifted back. He stood naked in the snow, his chest heaving, steam rising from his skin. He turned to look at Lucas. His eyes were wild. "She is in there," Ethan panted. "I can feel her, the bond. It's faint, but it's there, she isn't dead." "She is gone, Ethan," Lucas said, stepping closer, his voice smooth like oil. "You saw the magic. Only witches use magic like that. She deceived us all. She probably used a spell to make you think the baby was yours." Ethan flinched. The words were like poisoned darts. "Don't say that." "I have to say it," Lucas pressed on. "I am your beater, I am your best friend. I saw her attack me, you saw it too. And now, she explodes with purple light and vanishes into the dead lands. Ethan, wake up, she was never a simple Omega. She was a spy, a monster." Ethan looked at the barrier. He wanted to believe she was innocent, but the image of her kissing Lucas burned in his mind. And the magic, wolves don't have magic like that, not normal wolves. "We go back," Ethan whispered, defeated. The fire in him turned to ash. "But double the guards on the border if anything moves, if anything comes out." "We kill it?" Lucas asked, hopeful. Ethan looked at the dark woods one last time. "We capture it, I want answers." Ethan walked past his friend, his shoulders slumped. He looked like an old man, he looked broken. Lucas watched him go, then he turned to look at the dark forest. He smiled, a cruel thin smile. "Good luck, Mia," Lucas whispered to the wind. "No one survives the dead lands." Mia didn't know if she was dead or alive. She felt weightless, it felt like she was floating in warm water. She could hear a sound like a giant heart beating. Thump, 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 thump. It took her a long time to realize the sound was her own heart. She gasped and sat up. She wasn't in the snow, she wasn't cold. She was lying on a bed of soft green moss. The air was warm and humid, it smelled like rich soil and sweet flowers. Mia blinked, her eyes adjusting to the dim light. She was in a cave, but it wasn't a dark, scary cave. The walls were high and covered in glowing blue crystals. They pulsed with a soft light, acting like stars in a stone sky. "Ethan," she whispered. Her voice echoed, no answer. Panic set in, she scrambled to her feet, she looked down at herself. Her torn dress was gone. She was wearing a long, white tunic made of a material she had never touched before. It was soft as silk but strong. She put her hands on her stomach. The baby. She closed her eyes and focused. She waited for a kick, a flutter, anything. Bump. A strong kick. Mia let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. Tears streamed down her face. "You're okay," she sobbed, rubbing her belly. "We're okay." But where were they? She started to walk. The cave floor was smooth. She followed the tunnel where the air felt freshest. She walked for what felt like hours. The glowing crystals guided her way. Finally, she saw bright, natural sunlight ahead. She ran toward it. She burst out of the cave and stopped dead in her tracks. She was standing on a cliff edge. Below her stretched a valley she had never seen on any map. It was massive. The trees here were giant, redwoods that scraped the sky. There were waterfalls cascading down purple mountains in the distance. The grass was a vibrant, impossible green. And in the center of the valley stood ruins. Giant stone structures, white marble pillars, and statues of wolves that were 50 feet tall. It was a kingdom, a lost kingdom. "Where am I?" Mia whispered. She looked down at her hands. Faint purple veins were pulsing under her skin. The magic, it had brought her here. Her stomach growled loud and fierce. She realized she hadn't eaten since the party, since before her life fell apart. "Food," she said to herself. "I need food for the baby." She found a path leading down the cliff. It was steep, but she felt stronger than usual. She didn't get tired. Her senses were dialed up to 10. She could hear a beetle walking on a leaf a mile away. She could smell water. She could smell berries. She followed the scent. She found a bush full of bright blue berries near the edge of the treeline. She hesitated. Were they poisonous? Her wolf instinct nudged her. "Eat," it said, "safe." She ate hungrily. The juice stained her lips. She felt strength returning to her limbs. Suddenly, the birds in the giant trees went silent. Mia froze. She still had berry juice on her chin. She stayed perfectly still, listening. Snap. A twig broke not far away. Mia spun around. Who's there? Nothing but shadows and ferns. "I know you're there," she said, trying to sound brave like an alpha, but she was just Mia. "I can smell you." She couldn't actually, that was the scary part. She could smell the berries, the dirt, the water. But whatever was watching her had no scent, it was like a ghost. A low growl vibrated through the ground. It went right through the soles of her feet. From the shadows of the giant trees, a creature stepped out. Mia gasped and backed up until her back hit a tree trunk. It was a wolf, but it wasn't a normal wolf. It was massive, twice the size of Ethan in his wolf form. Its fur was silver, shining like metal in the sun, and it had 2 tails. 2 tails that swished back and forth like whips. The beast lowered its head. Its eyes were gold, burning liquid gold. It bared its teeth, showing fangs as long as daggers. Mia was trapped. She had no magic now. She tried to call it, but the purple light stayed sleeping in her veins. She was just a girl against a monster. The beast took a step closer. It sniffed the air, it sniffed her. Then its gaze dropped to her stomach. The growl stopped. The beast tilted its massive head. It whined. Mia held her breath. "Use, you won't hurt me." The beast took another step. It was close enough now that she could feel its hot breath. It reached out with its giant wet nose and gently nudged her hand. It wasn't attacking, it was greeting. Mia's knees went weak with relief. She reached out a shaking hand and touched the silver fur. It was coarse and warm. "You're not a normal wolf, are you?" she whispered. The beast huffed. It turned around and looked back at her, then looked toward the ruins in the valley. It wagged its two tails. It wanted her to follow. Mia didn't have a choice. She couldn't survive here alone. She pushed off the tree and followed the silver giant into the ancient city. Back at the Moon's Shadow Pack, the mood was funeral dark. Ethan sat in his office. The room was destroyed. He had smashed his desk. He had thrown his chair through the window. Now he sat on the floor holding a small piece of fabric. It was a scarf Mia had left behind. He pressed it to his nose, inhaling the fadding scent of vanilla. "Why," he groaned, "why did you do it, Mia?" A knock came at the door. "Go away," Ethan roared. The door opened anyway. It was Lucas. Of course it was Lucas. "I brought you food, Alpha," Lucas said, placing a tray on the floor. "You need to eat. The pack needs you strong. The neighboring packs are hearing rumors. They hear the Alpha is weak. They hear the Alpha has no mate." Ethan looked up. His eyes were bloodshot. "I am not weak." "Then show them," Lucas challenged. "Forget her, she is gone. She was a traitor. You need to choose a new mate, someone strong, someone loyal." "Like who?" Ethan snapped. "Sarah." Lucas shrugged. "Sarah is strong. She has good bloodlines. She would give you strong heirs, not weak ones." Ethan growled. He stood up and grabbed Lucas by the collar, slamming him against the wall. "Mia's child was not weak," Ethan shouted in his face. "It wasn't yours," Lucas shouted back, his face turning red. "Accept it, Ethan. She cheated. She played you. Why can't you see the truth?" Ethan stared at his friend. He searched Lucas's eyes for a lie, but Lucas was a good liar. He believed his own lies. Ethan let him go. He turned away. "Get out. I will attend the council meeting tonight, but do not speak to me of a new mate again." Lucas straightened his shirt. He hid his smirk. "As you wish, Alpha." Lucas left the room. As soon as the door clicked shut, Ethan fell back to the floor. He closed his eyes. He tried to reach down the bond again. The mate bond is a spiritual cord connecting two wolves. When one dies, the cord snaps. It causes physical pain. Ethan's cord wasn't snapped, it was stretched, thin, frayed, but it was still there. "She is alive," he whispered to the empty room, "and I will find her." But Ethan didn't know that the danger wasn't just outside the walls. It was inside. In the hallway, Lucas met with Sarah. She was leaning against a pillar, looking beautiful and dangerous. "Well," Sarah asked. "He is broken," Lucas said, smiling. "He is unstable. A few more weeks of this and the pack will lose faith in him. They will look for a new leader." "And you will step up," Sarah said, running a finger down Lucas's chest. "And I will be your queen." "Exactly," Lucas said, "but we need to make sure Mia never comes back. If she returns, if she speaks, we are dead." "She is in the dead lands," Sarah laughed. "No one comes back from there. The ancients killed them all centuries ago." "I hope so," Lucas said, "but send a scout, just to the border. If they see anything, burn it." Mia followed the silver wolf deep into the ruins. The city was beautiful but haunting. Vines wrapped around marble columns. Trees grew through the roofs of palaces. It was a place that had been empty for a very long time. The silver wolf led her to the largest building. It looked like a temple. Massive stone doors stood open. Mia walked inside. The room was vast. In the center was a round stone table, and sitting around the table were skeletons. Wolves, giant wolves, skeletons of wolves the size of the one guiding her. They had died sitting there. "What is this place?" Mia asked, her voice trembling. The silver wolf walked to the center of the room. It sat down and looked at a wall. On the wall was a mural, a painting carved into the stone. It showed a war, thousands of small wolves fighting against a few giant wolves. The giant wolves were losing. They were being pushed back into the forest. But in the center of the painting there was a woman. She was human, but she had glowing eyes. She was holding her hands up and purple light was pouring out of her, creating a barrier. She was saving the giant wolves. She was hiding them. Mia walked closer to the wall. She touched the painting of the woman. The woman looked like her. "She was the last queen," a voice said. Mia spun around. The silver wolf was gone. Standing in its place was a man. He was tall, ancient, with long silver hair and skin that looked like polished bronze. He wore armor made of leather and gold. His eyes were the same liquid gold as the wolf's. He didn't look like a werewolf, he felt, older, stronger. You, Amir stammered, you were the wolf. I am Lycion, the man said. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. I am the guardian of the lost. He took a step toward her. He didn't bow, he looked at her with intense scrutiny. You have her face, Lycion said, and you have her magic, but you are weak, you are an Omega. I am not weak, Mia said, lifting her chin. She was tired of being called that. I survived the cold, I survived the betrayal, I am still standing. Lycion laughed. It wasn't a mean laugh, it was a laugh of surprise. Perhaps, he said, but you have trespassed on sacred ground. The punishment for outsiders is death. Mia's heart stopped. She took a step back. You guided me here, you saved me from the woods. I guided you to your judgment, Lycion said. He raised his hand. The stone doors of the temple slammed shut with a deafening boom. The room plunged into darkness, lit only by the golden eyes of the man and the faint purple glow of Mia's veins. Show me, Lycion commanded. Show me why the earth saved you, show me the magic. I don't know how, Mia cried. Then you will die, Lycion said simply. He shifted, his body cracked and expanded. In seconds the giant silver wolf stood before her again. He roared, a sound that shook dust from the ceiling. He lunged. Mia screamed, she threw her hands up to protect her face. She didn't think, she just felt. She felt the fear. She felt the love for her baby. She felt the rage at Ethan. No, she screamed in her mind. The air in the temple grew hot. Crack! A whip of purple lightning exploded from Mia's hands. It hit the giant silver wolf in the chest. The massive beast was thrown backward. He flew across the room and smashed into a stone pillar. The pillar cracked and crumbled. Mia stood there panting. Her hands were smoking. Her eyes were glowing so bright they illuminated the whole dark hall. The silver wolf lay in the rubble. He groaned. Slowly he shifted back into the man Lycion. He coughed, wiping blood from his lip. He looked at Mia. He wasn't angry. He was smiling. Finally he wheezed. She has returned. He slowly got to his knees. He lowered his head to the floor. Hail, he whispered. Hail the Moon Queen. Mia stared at him, her hands still trembling with power. She was confused. She was terrified. What do you mean? She asked. Lycion looked up. You are not an Omega, child. You never were. You are a vessel, and you have just woken up the army. Before Mia could ask what army, a sound came from outside. Howl. Then another howl. Then 100 howls. The valley was waking up, the skeletons at the table, their bones began to rattle. Mia backed away. What is happening? War is coming, Lycion said, standing up. Your mate cast you out, he thinks you are nothing, but soon, he will tremble at your name. I don't want war, Mia said. I just want my baby to be safe. Then you must become the monster they fear, Lycion said. Suddenly the ground shook violently, but this time it wasn't magic. Intruders, Lycion hissed, his head snapped toward the door. Wolves from the other side. Ethan's scouts, they had crossed the barrier. They have found us, Lycion said. He looked at Mia. Hide, if they see you they will kill you before you learn to control the power. Where do I go? Mia panicked. Down, Lycion said. He stomped his foot. A trap door opened behind the stone table. Go into the crypts, do not come out until I call you. Mia ran, she climbed down into the dark hole. As the trap door closed above her, she heard the stone doors of the temple blast open. She heard men shouting. Clear the room, a voice yelled. It was Lucas's voice, he had come himself. Search everywhere, the Alpha wants proof of her death. Mia held her breath in the dark. She was inches away from the man who ruined her life. Well, well, Lucas's voice echoed above her. What do we have here, a wild man? Leave this place, Lycion's voice growled. Not until I find the girl, Lucas said. We tracked the magic here, where is she? She is gone, Lycion lied. We'll see, Lucas said. Burn it all down, if she's hiding the smoke will flush her out. Mia's eyes widened in the dark. She smelled smoke. The smoke didn't smell like normal wood burning. It smelled like oil, wolfsbane and hate. Mia was in the dark. The trap door above her was shut tight, but the cracks in the wood were glowing orange. The fire was growing fast. She coughed, covering her mouth with her sleeve. The air in the crypt was getting thin. It was getting hot. Above her the sounds of violence echoed through the stone floor. She heard the clang of metal swords against stone. She heard the wet tear of flesh. She heard Lycion roaring. "Burn it," Lucas screamed from above. "Seal the exits. If there is a rat in the hole, let it cook." Mia scrambled backward into the darkness. She felt her way along the cold stone walls. She couldn't stay under the trap door. The heat was already searing the top of her head. "Think, Mia, think," she whispered, her baby kicked hard. "I know, little one, I know, hold on." She needed light. She looked at her hands. "Please," she begged her own blood, "please." A spark, then a flicker. Then her veins lit up with that strange, pulsing purple light. It wasn't as bright as before, but it was enough. She saw she was in a long hallway lined with stone coffins. But they weren't normal coffins, they were made of crystal. Inside each one lay a warrior. They were perfectly preserved. Men and women in ancient armor, clutching silver swords. They looked like they were sleeping. Mia ran past them. She needed a way out. But the hallway ended at a solid rock wall. She was trapped. Above her a massive crash shook the earth. The roof of the temple had collapsed. Dust and hot embers rained down through the cracks in the ceiling. The heat was unbearable now. It felt like being inside an oven. Mia fell to her knees. The smoke was filling her lungs. Her vision was getting blurry. "Ethan," she whispered, her head drooping, "help me." Miles away, in the middle of the packed council meeting, Ethan dropped his glass of water. It shattered on the floor. Ethan gasped, clutching his chest. He fell out of his chair, doubling over in agony. It felt like someone had just poured boiling lead into his lungs. He couldn't breathe. His skin felt like it was on fire. "Alpha," the council members jumped up. "What is wrong?" She burns," Ethan choked out. His eyes flashed from brown to the glowing red of the Alpha. He didn't care about politics. He didn't care about the council. "Move," he roared. He threw the heavy oak table aside like it was made of cardboard. He bolted for the door. "Alpha, where are you going?" an elder shouted. "You cannot leave the meeting." "My mate is dying," Ethan screamed back. He burst out of the castle doors. He didn't wait for his guards. He didn't wait for a horse. He leaped off the balcony, shifting in midair. The massive black wolf landed with a heavy thud and took off. He ran faster than he had ever run in his life. He ignored the pain in his chest. He focused on the bond. It was screaming. It was a siren wailing in his head. "Mia's Mia." He tore through the forest. He hit the barrier of the dead lands. Usually it stopped wolves. But Ethan was desperate, and an alpha in love is the most dangerous force on earth. He didn't stop. He smashed into the shimmering wall. It burned his fur, it shocked his muscles, but he pushed. He pushed with every ounce of his soul. "R.I.P." With a sound like tearing fabric, Ethan broke through the barrier. He was in the dead lands. He looked up. In the distance, a column of black smoke was rising into the night sky. It was coming from the ruins. His heart stopped. He ran toward the smoke. Back in the crypt, Mia was on the floor. She couldn't cough anymore. She didn't have the air. She curled into a ball around her stomach, trying to shield her baby from the heat. "I'm sorry," she thought, "I'm so sorry." The ceiling above her groaned. A massive stone slab, weakened by the fire, was about to fall. It was directly over her. She closed her eyes and waited for the end. But the end didn't come. Instead, a voice spoke in her mind. It wasn't Lycion, it wasn't Ethan. It was a woman's voice, ancient, powerful. "Not yet, little queen." Mia felt a cold hand touch her shoulder. Her eyes snapped open. Standing over her was a ghost. No, not a ghost, a spirit. It was the woman from the painting upstairs, the last queen. She was translucent, glowing with the same purple light that was in Mia's veins. The spirit raised her hand toward the falling ceiling. The purple light exploded from Mia's body. It didn't come from her hands this time. It came from her heart. It formed a perfect dome over her. Boom! The stone slab crashed down. The burning timbers fell. The fire poured into the hole like a waterfall of lava. But nothing touched Mia. The purple shield held. The fire licked the outside of the bubble, but inside the air suddenly became cool and fresh. Mia stared at the spirit. "Who are you?" Mia thought. "I am the first," the spirit said. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. And you are the last, you must wake them, Mia. The fire is not your end, it is your beginning. The spirit pointed a glowing finger toward the solid rock wall at the end of the hallway. Touch the stone, the spirit commanded, give it your blood. Mia stood up, she was shaky, the shield moved with her. She walked through the falling fire protected by the magic. She reached the dead end. There was a symbol carved into the rock, a moon with a wolf inside it. Mia bit her thumb. She winced, then pressed her bleeding finger against the stone symbol. The blood sizzled, the rock drank it up. Click. The wall didn't open like a door, it melted. The stone turned into sand and poured away, revealing a dark staircase going down into the deep earth. Go, the spirit whispered, and then she faded away. Mia looked back at the fire raging in the crypt. She couldn't go up, she had to go down. She took a deep breath and stepped into the darkness. Above ground, the battle was over. The temple was a roaring inferno. The flames reached high into the sky. Lucas stood outside, watching the fire with a twisted smile. His face was smeared with soot. 2 of his guards were dragging a body toward him. It was Lycion. The ancient guardian was beaten bad. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds. He was in silver chains that sizzled against his skin, wolfsbane chains. Let me go, Lycion spat. You have no idea what you have done. Lucas laughed. He walked over and kicked Lycion in the ribs. I have done what had to be done, Lucas said. I burned the witch, and now I have a prisoner. You will tell me everything, old man. You will tell me where the treasure is. There is no treasure, Lycion groaned, only death. We'll see, Lucas said. Take him to the wagons. If he speaks, cut out his tongue. Lucas. The roar came from the edge of the forest. Lucas froze, the color drained from his face. A massive black wolf burst from the trees. It was huge, it was furious, it was Ethan. Ethan shifted mid-run, sliding on his knees in the dirt. He was naked, covered in burns from the barrier, his eyes wild with panic. He looked at the burning temple. He looked at the collapsed roof. No, Ethan whispered, no. He ran toward the fire. The heat was intense enough to melt skin, but Ethan didn't stop. Alpha, wait, Lucas shouted, pretending to be shocked. Don't go in there, it's unstable. MIA, Ethan screamed. He tried to run into the flames. Lucas signaled his guards, stop him for his own good. 4 guards tackled Ethan. Ethan fought like a demon. He threw them off. He broke an arm, he bit a shoulder. But he was weak from the barrier and there were too many of them. They pinned him to the ground. Let me go, Ethan sobbed. He watched the fire consume the ruins. He couldn't feel the bond anymore. The pain in his chest had stopped abruptly. To a wolf that means one thing, the mate is dead. Ethan went limp, he stared at the fire. Tears evaporated on his hot cheeks. She was in there, Lucas said, walking over with a sad face. We found a rogue camp. We tried to negotiate Alpha, but they attacked us. They set the fire themselves. A suicide pact. You lie, Ethan whispered, but his voice had no power. I felt her. I saw her, Ethan, Lucas said softly, kneeling beside him. She is gone, look. Lucas pointed to the fire. No one could survive that. Ethan let out a sound that wasn't human. It was the sound of a soul breaking. He stopped fighting. He lay in the dirt, watching his world burn. Lucas looked at his guards. He signaled for them to take the prisoner, Lycion, away quickly before Ethan saw him. Come, Alpha, Lucas said, helping Ethan up. Let's go home, there is nothing left here but ash. Ethan stood up. He looked at the flames one last time. I failed you, he whispered to the fire. I failed you, Mia. He turned around. He let Lucas lead him away. But Ethan didn't see the ground deep below the burning temple. He didn't see what was happening in the dark. Mia walked down the stairs for what felt like miles. The air got colder. The smell of smoke disappeared. It was replaced by the smell of ozone and iron. She reached the bottom. She was in a cavern so big she couldn't see the ceiling. It was filled with statues, thousands of them. Rows and rows of stone wolves, they stood in perfect formation. An army, a silent stone army waiting in the dark. Mia walked down the center aisle. She felt small. She felt terrified. At the very front of the army, there was a throne cut from a single giant diamond. And sitting on the throne was not a statue. It was a suit of armor, black armor, and inside the helmet 2 eyes suddenly lit up. They were purples. Mia stopped. The suit of armor stood up. It was 7 feet tall. It held a massive black sword. It pointed the sword at Mia. "You possess the light," a voice boomed from the armor. It wasn't a voice in her head this time, it was real. "But do you possess the will?" Mia put her hand on her stomach. She thought of Ethan walking away in the snow. She thought of Lucas laughing as he lit the fire. She thought of her baby who would have no father. Her fear vanished. It was replaced by cold, hard resolve. "I have the will," Mia said. Her voice was steady. The armor lowered the sword. It knelt on one knee. And behind it 1,000 stone statues cracked. Crack, crack, crack. Stone fell away, 4 emerged, eyes opened. The stone wolves were waking up. "Then command us, Queen," the armor said. Mia looked at the army, her army. "We wait," Mia said. Her eyes glowed silver in the dark. "Let them think I am dead, let them feel safe, and when the moon is full." She smiled, a dangerous, beautiful smile. "We will burn their world down." For the next 3 months, the Moon Shadow Kingdom thought they were at peace. But it was the kind of peace you feel before a hurricane hits. Ethan was a shadow of a man. He sat on his throne, but he didn't rule. He let Lucas and Sarah handle the pack business. He spent his nights in the nursery he had built for a baby that would never come. He sat in the dark, staring at the empty wooden cradle, clutching Mia's silver hair ribbon until his knuckles turned white. He was starving himself. His wolf was dying, because when a mate dies, the survivor often follows. "Eat, Ethan," Sarah said, walking into the room. She was wearing a silk dress, looking every bit like a queen in waiting. "The pack is worried. They say their king has lost his mind over a traitorous Omega." Ethan didn't look up. "Leave me, Sarah." "The coronation is in 2 days," she persisted, her voice sharp. "You must name me your queen. The elders demand it. We need a strong line to protect us from the things in the dead lands." Ethan finally looked at her. His eyes were hollow. "I will never name another queen." Sarah's face twisted in anger. "She is ash, Ethan, she is dust in the wind. I am here, I am loyal, I am alive." "Get out," Ethan growled. The sound was weak, but it still made the windows rattle. Sarah stomped out, finding Lucas in the hallway. "He won't budge," she hissed. "He's still obsessed with her." "It doesn't matter," Lucas whispered, his eyes gleaming. "The elders have already signed the papers. If he is too weak to lead, I will take the mantle, and you will be by my side. Let him rot in that nursery, our time is coming." Deep beneath the earth, Mia was no longer the girl who shivered in the snow. She stood in the center of the great cavern. She was glowing. The purple light didn't just pulse in her veins anymore, it radiated from her skin like moonlight. Her pregnancy was advanced now, her belly a proud curve beneath her white tunic. She wasn't weak, she was a goddess of the dark. In front of her, the shadow army stood in perfect rows. Thousands of giant wolves, their fur made of smoke and starlight, and at her right hand stood the Black Knight, the commander of the Shadow Guard. "You are ready, my queen," the knight said, his voice a deep metal hum. "I can feel them," Mia said. She closed her eyes, her senses had expanded. She could feel the heartbeat of the trees above. She could hear the pulse of the moon shadow pack miles away. "I can feel his pain, it's a heavy, dark thing." "Do you pity him?" the knight asked. Mia opened her eyes. They were silver, cold, and beautiful. "I pity the man he was, but I cannot forgive the king who stood by while I was cast into the fire." She turned to the army. "Tonight the moon is full, the blood moon," Mia announced. "The barrier is thin, tonight we reclaim the surface." 1,000 wolves threw their heads back. They didn't howl like normal wolves. They made a sound like 1,000 silver bells ringing at once. It was a beautiful, terrifying melody of war. Back at the palace, the celebration had begun. Lucas had convinced the pack that a party was needed to move past the tragedy of the Omega. The great hall was filled with music, meat, and wine. Ethan was forced to attend. He sat on his throne looking like a ghost. He watched as Lucas danced with Sarah. He watched as the pack laughed, forgetting the girl who had served them for years. Suddenly, the music stopped. The candles in the room flickered. The temperature dropped 40 degrees in a second. Breath turned into mist. "What is this?" an elder asked, shivering. Ethan stood up. He felt it first, a vibration in his feet, a hum in his blood, a scent he hadn't smelled in months. Vanilla reigned and power. Crack. The marble floor in the center of the hall split open. The guests screamed, diving out of the way. A thick purple mist began to pour out of the rift. It smelled of ancient magic and deep earth. From the mist, a figure emerged. She didn't climb out, she floated. Mia rose into the air, her long black hair whipping around her like a storm. Her white dress was pristine. Her silver eyes were locked onto the throne. The room went deathly silent. Mia, Ethan whispered. He took a step forward, his heart hammering against his ribs so hard it hurt. Mia, is it really you? I am the Queen of Shadows, Mia's voice echoed, vibrating through the walls. And I have come for my judgment. Lucas stepped forward, his face pale but his hand on his sword. Guards, it's a ghost, it's a trick of the dead lands, kill it. The royal guard lunged forward. Mia didn't move a muscle, she didn't even blink. Whoosh! From the rift in the floor, 4 giant shadow wolves leaped out. They were faster than sight. In a blur of black fur and purple light, the royal guard were pinned to the ground. The shadow wolves didn't kill them, they simply held them down with paws the size of dinner plates. Mia landed softly on the ground. She walked toward the throne. Every step she took left a glowing silver footprint on the marble. Sarah stepped in her way, baring her teeth. You're dead, you're an Omega, you're nothing. Sarah shifted into her brown wolf and lunged at Mia's throat. Mia simply raised a hand. A blast of purple energy hit Sarah midair. It didn't break her bones, it stripped her of her wolf. Sarah hit the ground in her human form, screaming, as her wolf spirit was forced into a deep sleep by Mia's magic. I am no Omega, Mia said, looking down at Sarah with pity. She looked at Lucas. Lucas was shaking. He backed away toward the balcony. You, Mia said, the liar, the traitor, the man who tried to burn a mother and her child. It was for the pack, Lucas yelled, his voice cracking. You were a weakness, you were a mistake. Mia turned her gaze to Ethan. Ethan was crying, he was shaking. He looked at her stomach, seeing the life he thought was lost. Mia, please, I was wrong, I was a fool, I let my jealousy blind me. He fell to his knees at her feet. The great Alpha King, the most powerful man in the kingdom, was bowing to the woman he had banished. Kill me if you must, Ethan sobbed, but let me touch my child once, let me know he is real. Mia looked down at him. Her heart, which she thought was made of stone, gave a tiny throb of pain. She saw the state of him, the weight he had lost, the madness in his eyes. He had suffered. But before she could speak, Lucas saw his chance. He pulled a hidden dagger from his belt, a blade coated in the purest, deadliest wolfsbane. He didn't aim for Mia. He knew she was too fast. He aimed for her stomach. If I can't have the throne, you'll have nothing, Lucas screamed. He lunged. No, Ethan roared. Ethan didn't think, he didn't shift. He simply threw his body in front of Mia. The blade sank deep into Ethan's chest. The world seemed to stop. Mia's eyes widened. She caught Ethan as he collapsed. The purple light around her flared white-hot with rage. She looked at Lucas. You, Mia hissed. She didn't use a blast of energy. She used the earth itself. The stone floor rose up like liquid, wrapping around Lucas's legs, then his waist, then his chest. It pulled him down into the rift. No, please, Mia. Lucas screamed as the floor swallowed him whole. The rift closed, leaving nothing but a smooth marble surface where the traitor had stood. Mia turned back to Ethan. He was lying in her arms, gasping for air. The wolfsbane was turning his veins black. It was moving toward his heart. Why, Mia whispered, tears finally falling from her silver eyes. Why did you do it? Ethan reached up, his hand trembling, and touched her cheek. Because I love you, and a king should die for his queen. His eyes began to close. Don't you dare, Mia growled. Don't you dare leave me again, Ethan. She placed her hand over the wound. The purple light began to flow from her palm into his chest. It fought the black veins. It fought the poison. But the wolfsbane was strong. Mia was gasping, her energy draining. She was giving him her life force. My queen, stop, the Black Knight shouted, stepping from the mist. You will kill yourself and the child. I won't let him die, Mia screamed. She pushed harder. The room began to shake. The windows shattered. The shadow wolves howled in a deafening chorus. The black veins slowed, they stopped, and then they began to recede. But as the poison left Ethan's body, Mia's glow began to fade. Her eyes turned from silver back to brown. She slumped against his chest, exhausted. Ethan's eyes snapped open. The black was gone. He breathed in deep, his strength returning instantly. He grabbed Mia before she hit the floor. Mia's Mia. She looked up at him, her voice a faint whisper. Is he gone? Lucas is gone, Ethan said, hugging her tightly. And I am never letting you go, never. The pack stood in silence. They looked at their king holding the woman they had mocked. They looked at the shadow army standing guard. One by one the elders knelt, then the warriors, then the servants. Hail the queen, the elders chanted. Hail the moon queen. Ethan looked at his pack, then back at Mia. He kissed her forehead. But the peace was short-lived. The Black Knight stepped forward, his purple eyes glowing with alarm. He looked toward the balcony, toward the northern mountains. My queen, the knight said, the sacrifice of the king's blood, and your magic, it has done something. The ground began to rumble again, but this wasn't Mia's magic. From the north, a massive, bone-chilling roar echoed. It was the same roar Mia had heard in the forest, the roar of the thing that had been sleeping for 1,000 years. The great beast of the dead lands was awake, and it was coming for the light. Ethan stood up, pulling Mia behind him. He shifted into his black wolf, larger and stronger than ever before. The war isn't over, Mia whispered, sensing the darkness approaching. It's just beginning. The roar didn't sound like a wolf. It sounded like the earth itself was screaming in pain. It was a cold, hollow sound that made every heart in the royal hall stop beating for a second. The great beast of the dead lands, the skull, had been a myth for 1,000 years. Mothers told stories of a wolf the size of a mountain that ate the moon. But as the northern windows of the palace shattered from the sound alone, everyone realized the myth was very real. Ethan, in his massive black wolf form, stood at the edge of the balcony. He growled, his fur standing on end. Beside him, Mia stood tall, her hand resting on his neck. The silver light was returning to her eyes, fueled by the adrenaline of the coming fight. The shadow army cannot stop that thing alone, the Black Knight said, his armor clanking as he stepped to the edge. That is the Eater of Magic. It has been drawn here by your power, Queen Mia. Then I will give it more than it can swallow, Mia said, her voice cold. She looked at the pack members huddled in the hall. They were terrified, they were weak, but they were still her people. Ethan, she whispered. The black wolf turned to her. The pack must fight, Mia said. Not as masters and servants, not as alphas and omegas, but as one. If we stay divided, we die tonight. Ethan let out a bark of agreement. He turned to his pack and let out a command howl, a sound so powerful it forced the cowering wolves to their feet. He wasn't just their alpha, he was a king calling his knights to a final stand. The battle began at the palace gates. The skull arrived like a living shadow. It was a beast of smoke and bone, its eyes 2 pits of fire. Every step it took turned the grass to ash. It swiped a massive claw, and the heavy iron gates of the kingdom flew off their hinges like paper. Now, Mia screamed. The shadow army moved first. Thousands of smoke wolves leaped from the darkness, biting at the skull's legs. They were like ants attacking a giant, but they were distracting it. Then came the Moon Shadow Pack. Led by Ethan, hundreds of wolves charged into the fray. They fought with a desperation they had never known. They weren't just fighting for their lives, they were fighting for the queen they had wronged. Mia stood on the highest tower of the palace. She closed her eyes and reached out her hands. Mother Moon, she prayed, give me the strength to protect my child. The purple light exploded from her, forming a giant bow made of pure energy. She pulled back the string, and a spear of white-hot lightning appeared. Zip! The spear hit the skull in the shoulder. The beast roared, a sound of agony that shook the clouds. It turned its fiery eyes toward the tower. It ignored the wolves at its feet and began to lumber toward Mia. Protect the queen, Ethan's voice echoed in the minds of every wolf. The wolves piled on top of the beast, trying to slow it down. They were tossed aside like ragdolls. Ethan leaped onto the beast's back, his teeth sinking into the thick, smoky fur. He was dragged along as the skull pushed closer and closer to the palace. Mia pulled back the bow again, but her hands were shaking, the magic was draining her. She felt a sharp pain in her stomach. Not now, she pleaded, just a little longer. The skull reached the base of the tower. It raised a massive claw to crush the stone. Mia, jump, Ethan roared, shifting back to human form for a split second as he tumbled off the beast's neck. But Mia didn't jump, she stood her ground. The claw swung. Crash. The top of the tower exploded into dust. No, Ethan screamed, falling to his knees in the dirt. The dust cleared. Mia was floating in midair, but she wasn't alone. The spirit of the first queen was behind her, her ghostly hands over Mia's hands. Together, they held a shield of shimmering silver that had stopped the skull's claw inches from Mia's face. You are the bridge, the spirit whispered in Mia's ear. The blood of the Alpha and the magic of the Ancient, combine them or all is lost. Mia looked down at Ethan. Ethan, your hand. Ethan understood. He scrambled up the ruins of the tower, jumping from stone to stone until he reached the ledge. He reached out and grabbed Mia's hand. The moment their skin touched, the world turned white. The Alpha's raw physical power flowed into Mia's ancient magic. The bond between them, once frayed and broken, became a golden cord that could not be severed. The purple light turned into a brilliant, blinding gold. The skull shrieked. It tried to back away, sensing its end. Mia and Ethan spoke with one voice, a sound that resonated across the entire kingdom. Begone. A wave of golden energy rolled out from the tower. It washed over the battlefield. It didn't hurt the pack, it didn't hurt the shadows. But when it hit the skull, the beast began to dissolve. The smoke turned to steam. The bone turned to dust. With one final, pathetic whimper, the great beast vanished into the wind. Silence fell over the kingdom. The sun began to peek over the horizon, the first rays of light hitting the broken walls of the palace. Mia and Ethan landed softly on the ground. They were covered in soot and blood, but they were alive. The pack stood in the courtyard, looking at the two of them in awe. Ethan turned to Mia. He took her face in his hands. We did it, it's over. Mia smiled, but then her face went pale. She gasped, clutching her stomach, and sank to her knees. Mia, Ethan's voice was full of panic. The baby, Mia whispered. Ethan, the baby is coming now. The war for the kingdom was won, but the battle for the future had just begun. As the sun rose over a broken city, the cries of the queen echoed through the halls, and the pack held its breath, waiting for the arrival of the one who would change everything. We are almost at the end. The beast is defeated, but can Mia and her baby survive the toll that magic took on her body? You don't want to miss the grand finale. Subscribe right now and turn on notifications for Chapter 6. Comment, Queen, if you think Mia is the strongest character you've ever heard of. The royal palace was a ruin, but the royal wing remained standing as if protected by the gods themselves. Outside, the warriors of the Moon Shadow Pack sat in the dirt, their heads bowed. The Shadow Army had returned to the mist, leaving only the Black Knight to stand guard at the bedroom door. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of herbs and the heavy metallic tang of magic. Mia lay on the bed, her face drenched in sweat. Every breath felt like a struggle against a tide of ice. The golden light she had used to destroy the skull had cost her a heavy price. It had drained her life force, leaving her heart beating slow and shallow. Ethan never left her side. He held her hand, his head pressed against hers, whispering every promise he could think of. Stay with me, Mia, please. The kingdom is yours, my life is yours, just stay. The baby, Mia gasped, her voice barely a thread. Ethan, he's coming. With one final, agonizing scream that echoed through the silent halls of the kingdom, a new sound broke the air. A cry, strong, loud, and full of life. The midwife, an elderly wolf who had seen 1,000 births, gasped as she wrapped the infant in white silk. She didn't bring the baby to Ethan first. She stood frozen, staring at the child. What is it? Ethan demanded, his wolf eyes flashing. Is he healthy? The midwife walked over, her hands trembling. She laid the baby in Mia's weak arms. The child was beautiful, with a tuft of black hair like his father. But as he opened his eyes, the room gasped. His eyes weren't brown or red or even silver. They were a deep, swirling violet, the color of the ancient magic that had saved his mother. And on his tiny shoulder was a mark, a golden crescent moon joined with a wolf's paw. The prophecy, the midwife whispered, falling to her knees. The heir of two worlds, the one who will unite the wolves and the ancients forever. Mia looked down at her son. A tear rolled down her cheek and landed on the baby's forehead. As it touched him, a soft pulse of light moved from the child back into Mia. The ice in her veins melted. Her heart found its rhythm again, the color returned to her cheeks. The child was healing her. Leo, Mia whispered. His name is Leo. Ethan leaned down, kissing Mia's forehead and then the tiny head of his son. Leo, the lion of the moon. 1 month later. The Moon Shadow Kingdom looked different. The walls were being rebuilt, but not with cold stone alone. The people worked together. There were no Omegas assigned to the kitchens, no Alphas lounging in silk. Every wolf was treated with the respect they had earned during the Great War. The sun was high as the entire pack gathered in the rebuilt courtyard. Ethan stood at the balcony, dressed in his royal furs. He looked strong, his eyes no longer hollow with grief but bright with pride. Beside him stood Mia. She wore a gown of silver silk that flowed like water. Around her neck was the Alpha's crest, and on her head sat a crown of white gold. She was no longer the broken Omega. She was the High Queen, the most powerful being in the supernatural world. The Black Knight stood behind them, a symbol that the Shadow Army now served the throne. Ethan stepped forward, raising his hand for silence. A year ago, Ethan's voice boomed, I committed a crime against my mate. I let lies and pride lead me to darkness. I cast out the light of this pack. He turned and looked at Mia with so much love it made the crowd go silent. But the moon is merciful, Ethan continued. She gave us a second chance. Today we do not just celebrate a new queen, we celebrate a new law. In this kingdom there are no ranks, there is only loyalty, there is only family. Ethan knelt before Mia. He took her hand and kissed it in front of everyone. My queen, my mate, my life. The pack erupted. It wasn't a normal cheer, it was a howl of 1,000 wolves, a sound of pure joy that could be heard for miles. Later that night the palace was quiet. Mia stood on the balcony of the nursery, looking out at the moonlit forest. She could see the faint purple shimmer of the dead lands in the distance, but it didn't feel scary anymore. It felt like home. A pair of strong arms wrapped around her waist. Ethan pulled her back against his chest, resting his chin on her shoulder. He's finally asleep, Ethan whispered, nodding toward the cradle where Leo lay, his tiny hands glowing faintly in his sleep. He's going to be powerful, Ethan, Mia said softly. The world will come for him. Let them come, Ethan growled playfully, nipping at her ear. They'll have to get through the Alpha King and the Moon Queen first. I don't think they'll like their chances. Mia laughed, turning in his arms to face him. She looked into his eyes, the eyes that had once looked at her with hate, but now held nothing but devotion. I never thought I'd be happy again, Mia admitted. That day in the snow, I thought the world was over. It was, Ethan said seriously. The old world ended that day, and we built a better one on the ashes. He leaned down, his lips inches from hers. I will spend every day for the rest of eternity making up for that day, Mia, I promise you. You already have, she whispered. As they kissed under the light of the full moon, the ground beneath them hummed. It wasn't a roar of a monster or a crack of a rift. It was the earth itself, purring in contentment. The broken Omega was gone, the Alpha King was redeemed, and the Moon Shadow Kingdom was finally truly whole. But deep in the mountains, far beyond the borders of the kingdom, a single pair of red eyes watched the celebration. A shadow moved in the trees, clutching a piece of paper, the royal decree of the new king. A voice hissed into the dark. The child with the violet eyes, the master will be pleased. The shadow vanished into the night, leaving only a cold wind behind. The war for the throne was over, but the war for the child had only just begun. The end. Sign out. And that is the end of our story. Mia and Ethan have found their peace, but it looks like little Leo might have some trouble heading his way in the future. What did you think of the ending? Did Lucas get what he deserved? I want to hear all your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this journey from the snow-covered banishment to the Golden Throne. If you loved this story, please subscribe, give this video a big thumbs up, and share it with a friend who loves paranormal romance. We have many more stories coming your way, so stay tuned. Until next time, stay wild. Here is the final script, Chapter 6. Narrator. The royal palace was a ruin, but the royal wing remained standing as if protected by the gods themselves. Outside, the warriors of the Moon Shadow Pack sat in the dirt, their heads bowed. The Shadow Army had returned to the mist, leaving only the Black Knight to stand guard at the bedroom door. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of herbs and the heavy metallic tang of magic. Mia lay on the bed, her face drenched in sweat. Every breath felt like a struggle against a tide of ice. The golden light she had used to destroy the skull had cost her a heavy price. It had drained her life force, leaving her heart beating slow and shallow. Ethan never left her side. He held her hand, his head pressed against hers, whispering every promise he could think of. "Stay with me, Mia, please. The kingdom is yours, my life is yours, just stay." "The baby," Mia gasped, her voice barely a thread. "Ethan, he's coming." With one final, agonizing scream that echoed through the silent halls of the kingdom, a new sound broke the air. A cry, strong, loud, and full of life. The midwife, an elderly wolf who had seen 1,000 births, gasped as she wrapped the infant in white silk. She didn't bring the baby to Ethan first. She stood frozen, staring at the child. "What is it?" Ethan demanded, his wolf eyes flashing. "Is he healthy?" The midwife walked over, her hands trembling. She laid the baby in Mia's weak arms. The child was beautiful, with a tuft of black hair like his father. But as he opened his eyes, the room gasped. His eyes weren't brown or red or even silver. They were a deep, swirling violet, the color of the ancient magic that had saved his mother. And on his tiny shoulder was a mark, a golden crescent moon joined with a wolf's paw. "The prophecy," the midwife whispered, falling to her knees. "The heir of two worlds, the one who will unite the wolves and the ancients forever." Mia looked down at her son. A tear rolled down her cheek and landed on the baby's forehead. As it touched him, a soft pulse of light moved from the child back into Mia. The ice in her veins melted. Her heart found its rhythm again, the color returned to her cheeks. The child was healing her. "Leo," Mia whispered. "His name is Leo." Ethan leaned down, kissing Mia's forehead and then the tiny head of his son. "Leo, the lion of the moon." 1 month later. The Moon Shadow Kingdom looked different. The walls were being rebuilt, but not with cold stone alone. The people worked together. There were no Omegas assigned to the kitchens, no Alphas lounging in silk. Every wolf was treated with the respect they had earned during the Great War. The sun was high as the entire pack gathered in the rebuilt courtyard. Ethan stood at the balcony, dressed in his royal furs. He looked strong, his eyes no longer hollow with grief but bright with pride. Beside him stood Mia. She wore a gown of silver silk that flowed like water. Around her neck was the Alpha's crest, and on her head sat a crown of white gold. She was no longer the broken Omega. She was the High Queen, the most powerful being in the supernatural world. The Black Knight stood behind them, a symbol that the Shadow Army now served the throne. Ethan stepped forward, raising his hand for silence. "A year ago," Ethan's voice boomed, "I committed a crime against my mate. I let lies and pride lead me to darkness. I cast out the light of this pack." He turned and looked at Mia with so much love it made the crowd go silent. "But the moon is merciful," Ethan continued. "She gave us a second chance. Today we do not just celebrate a new queen, we celebrate a new law. In this kingdom there are no ranks. There is only loyalty. There is only family." Ethan knelt before Mia. He took her hand and kissed it in front of everyone. "My queen, my mate, my life." The pack erupted. It wasn't a normal cheer, it was a howl of 1,000 wolves, a sound of pure joy that could be heard for miles. Later that night the palace was quiet. Mia stood on the balcony of the nursery, looking out at the moonlit forest. She could see the faint purple shimmer of the dead lands in the distance, but it didn't feel scary anymore. It felt like home. A pair of strong arms wrapped around her waist. Ethan pulled her back against his chest, resting his chin on her shoulder. "He's finally asleep," Ethan whispered, nodding toward the cradle where Leo lay, his tiny hands glowing faintly in his sleep. "He's going to be powerful, Ethan," Mia said softly. "The world will come for him." "Let them come," Ethan growled playfully, nipping at her ear. "They'll have to get through the Alpha King and the Moon Queen first. I don't think they'll like their chances." Mia laughed, turning in his arms to face him. She looked into his eyes, the eyes that had once looked at her with hate, but now held nothing but devotion. "I never thought I'd be happy again," Mia admitted. "That day in the snow, I thought the world was over." "It was," Ethan said seriously. "The old world ended that day, and we built a better one on the ashes." He leaned down, his lips inches from hers. "I will spend every day for the rest of eternity making up for that day, Mia, I promise you." "You already have," she whispered. As they kissed under the light of the full moon, the ground beneath them hummed. It wasn't a roar of a monster or a crack of a rift. It was the earth itself, purring in contentment. The broken Omega was gone. The Alpha King was redeemed. and the Moon's Shadow Kingdom was finally truly whole. But deep in the mountains, far beyond the borders of the kingdom, a single pair of red eyes watched the celebration. A shadow moved in the trees, clutching a piece of paper, the royal decree of the new king. A voice hissed into the dark, the child with the violet eyes, the master will be pleased." The shadow vanished into the night, leaving only a cold wind behind. The war for the throne was over, but the war for the child had only just begun. The end. Sign out. And that is the end of our story. Mia and Ethan have found their peace, but it looks like little Leo might have some trouble heading his way in the future. What did you think of the ending? Did Lucas get what he deserved? I want to hear all your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this journey from the snow-covered banishment to the Golden Throne. If you loved this story, please subscribe, give this video a big thumbs up, and share it with a friend who loves paranormal romance. We have many more stories coming your way, so stay tuned. Until next time, stay wild.